At Morixa Tales, we believe in the power of storytelling. Our scripts weave together deep emotions and dramatic turns to deliver justice where it is most needed. Experience captivating mysteries where the truth eventually shines through, leaving a lasting impact on your heart and mind.
On my 30th birthday, my family invited 40 people to our house for what they called a surprise intervention. My father stood up first and said I was selfish and destroying the family. My mother read a long list of everything I had supposedly done wrong since childhood. My sister held up her phone filming the entire scene like it was entertainment. Everyone waited for me to defend myself. I didn't. I just sat there quietly looking around the room. Because while they believed this night would finally expose me, they had no idea how much I already knew. I really appreciate you stopping by. Before the story unfolds, do me a favor, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. It means the world. One thing to note, this narrative includes creative elements designed for engagement and education. Any resemblance to actual people or locations is unintentional. However, the core message I'm delivering worth your time and attention. Ready? Let's go. I was 28 years old the first time I realized you could work yourself to exhaustion for people who didn't actually love you back. It was 2 a.m. on a Thursday. I just finished a 12-hour shift in the pediatric ICU at Mission Hospital in Asheville, North Carolina. And I was sitting in my car in the dark parking garage with my phone screen glowing blue against my face. My bank account stared back at me, $1,247.18. I'd been paid the day before. The automatic transfer to my parents had already gone through. $2,750, same as every month for the past 5 years. Rent was due in 6 days. My student loan payment would hit in 10. And my 2013 Toyota Corolla, which had 147,000 miles on it and a check engine light I'd been ignoring for 3 weeks, needed an oil change I couldn't afford. I sat there for 20 minutes staring at that number. $1,200. For 2 weeks of groceries, gas, and whatever emergency would inevitably come up, because that's how life worked when you were living paycheck to paycheck. I told myself the same thing I always did. It's temporary. Once Dad retires, once Sloan's wellness thing takes off, I can start saving. But 5 years is a long time to call something temporary. Let me back up. My name is Greer Bellamy. I'm a PICU nurse, which means I spend my days keeping critically ill children alive while their parents fall apart in waiting rooms. It's the kind of job that makes you good at compartmentalizing, at shutting off the part of your brain that wants to feel things so you can focus on the IV line, the ventilator settings. The code blue at 3 a.m. I'm good at my job. Great even. I have a pediatric trauma certification that only 3 nurses in Western North Carolina hold. I've been nominated for a Daisy Award twice. My supervisor, Dr. Marcus Rhodes, once told me I had the steadiest hands and the calmest voice in a crisis he'd ever seen. But none of that steadiness applied to my family. I lived in a 3rd-floor walk-up at the Lexington Apartments downtown. Studio, 450 square feet, $875 a month. The building had terrible water pressure and a radiator that clanked like a ghost was trying to break out of the pipes, but it was mine. I'd lived there since I graduated nursing school 6 years ago, and I'd never been able to afford anything better. Because every month without fail, I sent my parents $2,750. It started small. 5 years ago, my father, Warren Bellamy, 59 HVAC technician with a bad back and a stubborn streak, got injured on a job, herniated disc. He was out of work for 8 weeks and the bills started piling up. My mother, Vivian, worked part-time as the church secretary at Asheville First Baptist, but that barely covered groceries, so I stepped in. Just until Dad's back on his feet, my mother said. We'll pay you back, sweetie, I promise. That was 60 months ago. I was still waiting. The $2,750 covered. Mortgage, $1,485, 3-bedroom split level in West Asheville, the house I grew up in. Mom's health insurance, $425. She'd developed high blood pressure and needed a specific plan. Sloan's car payment, $365, my younger sister's Nissan Rogue. which she'd bought 2 years ago and immediately stopped making payments on groceries. $200, I do a Publix run every 2 weeks, drop off bags at their house, never stay for dinner. And the rest, $275, I assumed went into savings or maybe Dad's truck payment or something responsible. I never asked. I just sent the money. Sloan Bellamy, my younger sister, 26 years old Instagram wellness influencer with 3,400 followers and a bio that read, "Empowering women to glow from within. Yes, holistic health. Mindset coach. Yenir's DM for 1-1 sessions." She posted photos of herself in athleisure holding green smoothies doing yoga on the back deck of our parents' house. She sold a $525 Radiant Reset coaching program that, as far as I could tell, consisted of 3 Zoom calls and a PDF workbook she'd plagiarized from a free online course. She'd borrowed money from me twice in the past year, once for the coaching certification, once for new ring lights and a tripod for content creation. She never paid me back. When I brought it up, she'd say things like, "You know I'm building a business, Greer. This is an investment." But somehow I was the one investing, and she was the one buying lash extensions. I didn't hate my family. I want to be clear about that. I loved them. I loved my mother's laugh the way she hummed hymns while she folded laundry. I loved that my father still called me Peanut, even though I was 28. I loved that my grandmother, Cora, 79, living at Pine Haven Residence on the north side of town, sent me a handwritten card every month with a $5 bill tucked inside and a note that said, "Buy yourself something sweet." But loving people and being used by them aren't mutually exclusive. I just didn't know that yet. The week before everything unraveled, I worked 4 12-hour shifts in 6 days. We had a 9-year-old in bed 3, Lily car accident fractured skull, and I stayed late every night to sit with her because her parents were divorced and neither of them showed up. On my last shift, Lily asked me, "Does your family come visit you at work?" "No, sweetie," I said, adjusting her IV. "They're busy." She looked at me with those big, serious eyes and said, "People who love you show up, even when they're busy." I thought about that all the way home. I thought about it when I checked my bank account and saw $1,247.18. I thought about it when I passed a Starbucks and didn't stop because a latte was $5.75 and I couldn't justify it. I thought about it when I got home and saw the text from Sloan. "Hey sis, can you Venmo me $525? I need to renew my coaching cert. I'll pay you back next month, promise." I stared at that message for 10 minutes. Then I sent the money. Because that's what you did when you were the responsible one, the dependable one, the one who always showed up. I kept telling myself they needed me. I kept believing it even when the math stopped making sense. The thing about Sloan asking for money was that it always reminded me of the last time she'd accused me of stealing from her. It had been 2 years since the $500 incident, but I still remembered every second of it. The way my mother's face went cold, the way my father wouldn't look at me, the way Sloan stood in the middle of the living room with her arms crossed and her voice shaking, saying, "I know you took it. You're the only one who was alone in that room." I hadn't taken anything, but no one believed me. It was a Sunday in late September 2 years ago. I was 26, still new enough at Mission Hospital that I picked up every extra shift I could. I'd driven to my parents' house for dinner. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, the same meal my mother made every 3rd Sunday of the month. Sloan had been 24 then, just starting her Instagram wellness thing. She'd spent most of the meal talking about a life-changing retreat she wanted to attend in Sedona, Arizona. $5,000 for a week of spiritual alignment and manifestation work. She'd looked at me across the table and said, "You should come, Greer. It would help you loosen up." I'd smiled and said I couldn't afford it. After dinner, I stayed to help with dishes. Everyone else went into the living room to watch a Hallmark movie. I was elbow deep in soap suds when I heard Sloan scream. Someone took my money. I dropped the dish I was holding. It didn't break, just clattered into the sink. But the sound felt too loud in the sudden silence. I walked into the living room. Sloan was standing by the couch, her purse open on the coffee table, her wallet in her hands. Her face was red, her eyes wild. "I had $500 in here," she said. "Cash, I just got it from the ATM this morning, and now it's gone." My mother stood up. "Are you sure you didn't spend it?" Mom, I know how much money I have. Sloane's voice was sharp. Then she turned to me. You were the only one in here alone. The accusation hit me like a slap. I was in the kitchen, I said. I didn't touch your purse. You walked through here to get to the bathroom, Sloane shot back. I saw you. I had, once, to wash my hands, for maybe 45 seconds. I didn't take your money, Sloane. But she was already crying, and my mother was already putting an arm around her, and my father was looking at me with this expression I'd never seen before, like I was a stranger. Greer, my mother said quietly. If you needed money, you could have just asked. I felt like the floor had disappeared under me. I didn't take it. But Sloane was sobbing now, and my mother was whispering to her, and my father was sitting with his hands folded, staring at the carpet. No one said, "We believe you, Greer." I left. I got in my car and drove home and sat in my apartment and cried so hard I thought I'd throw up. For 3 weeks, no one called me. No one texted. I still sent the $2,750 at the beginning of the month, because what else was I supposed to do? But when I tried to drop off groceries the following Sunday, my mother met me at the door and said, "We're not ready to see you yet." Sloane posted on Instagram that week, "Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most, protecting my peace." I knew it was about me. On week 4, I met Palmer Thorne for coffee at the Drippolator downtown. Palmer had been my best friend since undergrad at UNC Asheville. We'd lived in the same dorm freshman year, survived organic chemistry together, stayed close, even though I went into nursing, and he went to law school. He ran a small family law practice now 2 blocks from Pack Square, and he was the kind of person who answered the phone at 11 at night when you called crying. I told him everything, the $500, the accusation, the 3 weeks of silence. He listened without interrupting. Then he set his coffee down and said, "North Carolina is a one-party consent state." I blinked. What? For recording conversations. You only need one person's permission to record, and that person can be you. He pulled out his phone, opened the App Store, and showed me a screen. Voice Memo Pro. It runs in the background. You hit record, put your phone in your pocket, and it captures everything. Audio quality is good enough to hold up in court if you ever need it. I stared at the app icon, a little red microphone. You think I should record my own family. I think, Palmer said carefully, that you just got accused of theft with 0 evidence and your parents chose to believe your sister over you. I think you should protect yourself. Because if Sloane does this once, she'll do it again. I felt sick. They're my family, Palmer. I know. His voice was gentle. But Greer, family's supposed to have your back. And right now, they don't. I downloaded the app that night, Voice Memo Pro. I put it in a folder labeled Work Backup so I wouldn't have to look at it. I never used it. On week 5, my mother called. She didn't apologize. She just said, "Sloane's willing to move past this if you are." I said yes, because what else could I say? The $500 was never mentioned again. I still don't know if Sloane actually lost it, or if she spent it and forgot, or if she made the whole thing up. But I knew one thing: I'd been thrown under the bus, and my parents had let it happen. 2 years later, I was staring at Sloane's text, "Hey sis, can you Venmo me $525? I thought about that app sitting in my phone for 24 months untouched. Palmer had been right. Sloane had done it again. Not an accusation this time, but the same pattern. Take from me. Act like it never happened. Ask for more. I opened my phone, scrolled to the folder, stared at the Voice Memo Pro icon. I thought about opening it, about hitting record the next time I walked into my parents' house, but I didn't. Not yet. I sent Sloane the $525, and then I closed the app and told myself I was being paranoid. I wasn't ready to believe I'd need it. I should have been. I was carrying 4 bags of groceries up my parents' front steps when I heard my mother say my name. Not the way she usually said it. Casual, distracted, like I was a minor interruption to her day. This was different, sharp, deliberate. The tone you use when you're talking about someone, not to them. I froze. The bags were heavy. Publix brown paper stuffed with the things my parents always needed and never bought themselves. Milk bread, deli turkey, those little Ensure shakes my father drank in the mornings. It was a Thursday night, which was weird in itself. I usually did the grocery run on Sundays after church, but my mother had texted that afternoon, "Dad's truck broke down. Can you swing by tonight with a few things before the weekend?" So I'd gone, because that's what I did. I stood on the front porch, my hand halfway to the doorbell, and listened. 40 people confirmed for Sunday, June 8th. My mother's voice coming from the living room. She was on speakerphone. I could hear the tinny echo of someone else on the other end. Her sister Verity, my aunt. 54 dental receptionist, the kind of woman who always had an opinion. She didn't ask if you wanted to hear. And Dr. Rhodes, Verity's voice crackled through the speaker. "He's coming." Sloan told him it's a mental health intervention, my mother said. Some story about Greer having anxiety after a patient death. He said he'd be there to assess whether she's fit to keep working. I felt the air leave my lungs. "Perfect," Verity said. "What about the live stream?" "Sloan's handling it. Instagram Live. She thinks she can get at least 500 viewers if she promotes it right." My hands went numb. The plastic handles of the grocery bags cut into my palms, but I couldn't feel it. "And you're sure this will work?" Verity's voice again, cautious now. "Greer's not stupid, Viv. She won't see it coming." My mother's voice was cold, certain. "We need to teach her a lesson in front of everyone. She's been controlling this family with money for too long. It's time she learned her place." I don't remember setting the grocery bags down. I don't remember walking back to my car. I don't remember the drive home, 15 minutes on I-240. Past the exits I'd taken 1,000 times, but somehow I ended up sitting in my apartment parking lot with my hands shaking so hard I couldn't unlock my phone. 40 people. A show. My own mother. At 11:47 p.m., I called Palmer. He answered on the second ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Greer, you okay? They're planning an intervention." The words came out flat, mechanical. My birthday, June 8th, 40 people. My boss is going to be there. Sloan's live streaming it. There was a pause. Then I heard rustling. Palmer sitting up, probably reaching for the lamp on his nightstand. "Slow down," he said. "Start from the beginning." So I told him. The grocery run, the speakerphone call. My mother's voice saying, "Teach her a lesson like I was a child who needed to be disciplined in front of the entire family." "Jesus Christ," Palmer muttered when I finished. "This is Greer. This is public humiliation. Legally, there's nothing you can do to stop it. It's their house, their guest list. But..." He paused. "You can protect yourself." "How?" "You record everything." I blinked. "What?" "The app I told you about 2 years ago. Voice Memo Pro. You still have it?" "I did. Buried in a folder I hadn't opened since the day I downloaded it." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Good. Here's what you do." Palmer's voice shifted. No longer my best friend, but the lawyer who'd once gotten a client full custody after her ex tried to lie under oath. "For the next 8 weeks, every time you go to your parents' house, you record. Every phone call with Sloan, with your mom, with your dad, you record. You don't tell anyone. North Carolina's a one-party consent state, remember. You only need your own permission." "But what if..." I stopped. "What if I find something worse?" "Then you'll have evidence," Palmer said simply. "Greer, they're planning to humiliate you in front of 40 people and live stream it to the internet. You think it can get worse than that?" I thought about my mother's voice. Time she learned her place. "Yeah," I said, "I do." Palmer stayed on the phone with me for another 20 minutes. He walked me through the settings on Voice Memo Pro, how to name files, how to set it to auto-upload to a private cloud folder, how to make sure the recording didn't stop even if I got a phone call or my screen locked. "You've got 8 weeks, he said. That's 56 days. If they're planning something this big, they're going to talk about it. And when they do, you're going to have proof." I stared at my phone screen. The little red microphone icon stared back. "What if I hear something I can't unhear?" I asked. Palmer was quiet for a moment. Then, "You already did Greer, tonight. This isn't about protecting your feelings anymore. It's about protecting you." He was right. I'd spent 5 years protecting them. Their house, their bills, their egos. I'd spent 2 years pretending the $500 incident never happened, pretending Sloan's accusations didn't still sting every time I saw her. I was done pretending. "Okay," I said, "I'll do it." Every visit, Palmer repeated. Every call, even if it feels like nothing, especially if it feels like nothing. Okay, and Greer. His voice softened. I'm sorry. I know they're your family, but family doesn't do this. I didn't answer. I couldn't. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. My apartment was quiet, just the hum of the radiator and the distant sound of someone's TV through the wall. Outside my window, Asheville glittered small and far away. 8 weeks until my birthday. 56 days until 40 people watched my mother try to destroy me in front of everyone I knew. I opened Voice Memo Pro, typed a label, Week 1, Surveillance. And for the first time in 5 years, I stopped asking myself what my family needed. I started asking what I needed to survive them. I'd never bought surveillance equipment before. I stood in the electronics aisle at Best Buy on a Saturday morning, staring at a text from Palmer that had woken me up at 6 a.m. Anker 20,000 milliampere hours power bank, JBL Flip 5, wireless mic if you can find one. You're building a case, not planning a crime. Meet me at noon. P. Building a case, right? The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A teenager in a blue polo shirt restocked HDMI cables 3 aisles down. Somewhere near the front of the store, a promotional video played on loop something about smart home devices and effortless connectivity. I stood there holding my phone reading Palmer's text for the 3rd time, trying to convince myself this was normal. It wasn't. I picked up the Anker power bank matte black about the size of a deck of cards heavy in my palm. 20,000 milliamp hours, enough to keep my phone recording for 3 days straight without dying. I turned the box over in my hands, reading the specs I'd already memorized from online reviews the night before. Waterproof. Drop resistant. USB-C fast charging. I'd spent an hour comparing models, scrolling through customer testimonials, watching YouTube tutorials on battery life optimization. This wasn't just a purchase. It was preparation for war, and I had no idea if I was ready. I dropped it into my basket. The JBL Flip 5 was in the Bluetooth speaker section. Bright red cylindrical portable, $120. I picked it up, read the box, 360-degree sound, 12 hours of playtime. Waterproof. I imagined standing in my parents' living room in front of 40 people pressing play, letting my father's voice fill the space, letting everyone hear what he'd been hiding. My hands started shaking. I set the speaker in my basket before I could change my mind. The wireless lapel mic was harder to find. I walked up and down 3 aisles before I spotted it, tucked behind a display of phone cases, a tiny clip-on microphone with a 3-foot cable, and a 5mm jack, $19. I grabbed it without reading the box. The cashier at checkout was a kid, maybe 19, with a name tag that said Brandon. He had earbuds and nodding along to music I couldn't hear. He scanned the power bank, the speaker, the wireless mic, barely looking at any of it. Find everything okay? He asked, pulling one earbud out. Yeah, I said. My voice sounded normal, steady. Just preparing for a trip. He smiled. Cool, have a good one. I walked out with a shopping bag full of equipment I hoped I'd never actually need to use. But I knew I would. Palmer met me at the Drippolator at noon. He already had 2 coffees on the table, one black one with oat milk and honey. Mine. He'd remembered. He always did. You got everything? He asked. I pulled the Anker box out of the bag, the JBL speaker, the mic. Palmer nodded, pulling his laptop out of his messenger bag. Good, now we set up the back end. The what? Storage. Backup. He opened his laptop, logged into his Google Drive, and created a new folder. He titled it Evidence_2024 and then clicked through a series of privacy settings I didn't fully understand. Encryption. 2-factor authentication. View-only sharing permissions. I'm setting this so only you and I can access it, he said. Every 3 days, you're going to upload your recordings here. Not every day that'll drain your battery and create a pattern someone could notice, but every 3 days like clockwork. What if I forget? Set a phone reminder. Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday. Same time every week. Make it routine. I watched him work. His fingers moved fast over the keyboard, creating subfolders labeled Week 1, Week 2, all the way through Week 8. At the bottom, he added a folder labeled Confrontation Night. "This is real," I said quietly. Palmer looked up. His eyes were serious the way they'd been the night I called him crying about the $500 accusation 2 years ago. "Yeah," he said, "it is." That afternoon, I went home and tested everything. I set my phone on the kitchen counter, opened Voice Memo Pro, and hit record. Then I walked into my bedroom about 20 feet away with a wall between and spoke in a normal voice. "This is a test. My name is Greer Bellamy. I'm 28 years old. I'm a PICU nurse at Mission Hospital." My voice sounded strange, small, distant, like it belonged to someone else. I cleared my throat and tried again louder this time. "I'm recording this because my family is planning to humiliate me in front of 40 people on my birthday. I'm recording this because I refuse to let them bury me without proof." I stopped, walked back to the kitchen, hit stop. The playback was clear, every word. Even from the bedroom, even through the wall, the app had captured it perfectly. I played it again and again, listening to my own voice say, "I refuse to let them bury me," until the words stopped sounding like mine. I sounded different on the recording, younger, flatter, like a stranger talking about someone else's life. I played it a third time, then a fourth, until the words lost all meaning and became just sounds. Phonemes strung together, proof that I existed, proof that I was planning something I couldn't take back. I thought about deleting it, starting over, pretending I'd never downloaded the app in the first place. But then I thought about my mother's voice on that speakerphone call, "Teach her a lesson," and I hit save. Over the next 2 weeks, I tested the setup 17 times. I practiced hitting record without looking at my phone screen. I practiced setting my phone face down on a table so the microphone wouldn't be obvious. I practiced slipping it into my jacket pocket purse strap over my shoulder casual like I wasn't carrying evidence. I charged the Anchor power bank every night and kept it in my purse. I tested the JBL speaker, plugged my phone into it via Bluetooth, played back one of my practice recordings. The sound filled my tiny apartment loud and clear. Too loud. I turned the volume down to 70%. Tested it again, better. I synced my phone to Palmer's Google Drive folder and set 3 reminders. Thursday, 9 p.m., upload recordings. Sunday, 9 p.m., upload recordings. Wednesday, 9 p.m., upload recordings. And every time I was about to leave for my parents' house, which in those 2 weeks was twice for grocery drop-offs and once for a Sunday dinner I couldn't get out of, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and checked. Phone 100% charged, power bank in purse, Voice Memo Pro app, open ready to record. It became a ritual, a checklist, something I could control when everything else felt like it was spinning out. On Thursday of week 2, I sat on my couch at midnight with my phone in my hand. I'd uploaded 5 recordings to the evidence_2024 folder. That night, nothing important, just ambient audio from my parents' house. My mother talking about church, my father watching the news, Sloan complaining about an Instagram brand deal that fell through. Nothing useful, yet. Palmer had texted me earlier, "You're doing great. Keep going. The important stuff will come." But I kept thinking about what he'd asked me the first day we set everything up. What if you record something you can't come back from? I'd told him, then at least I'll know the truth. But now sitting alone in the dark, I wondered if I actually wanted to know. I thought about my mother's voice on that speakerphone call, "Teach her a lesson." I thought about Sloan's text asking for $525 like it was nothing. I thought about my father who hadn't looked me in the eye in months. I opened Voice Memo Pro and stared at the red record button. I'd practiced 17 times, 17 dry runs where I talked to myself and played it back and pretended I was ready. But none of that, none of the Best Buy trips, none of the Google Drive encryption, none of Palmer's step-by-step instructions prepared me for what I was about to hear. Because in 6 days, I'd walk into my parents' house for a routine visit. And I'd finally catch my father saying the thing he'd been hiding for 16 years. I went to work. It was the only place where the rules made sense. At the hospital, I knew what I was supposed to do. Check vitals every 2 hours, monitor IV lines, document everything, follow protocols, save lives. The PICU was chaos, but it was organized chaos. There were algorithms for that. My family didn't have algorithms. Lily Carson was 9 years old and she'd been in bed 3 for 6 days when she asked me the question that stayed with me for the rest of my life. Car accident on A26, fractured skull, broken left femur concussion. She'd been riding in the back seat without a seatbelt when her father's truck got rear-ended by a semi. Her father walked away with whiplash. Lily didn't. Her parents were divorced. Her mother lived in Florida now with a new boyfriend. Her father lived 20 minutes away in Weaverville and worked construction. Neither of them had visited since the day she was admitted. Shelby, one of the senior nurses, had told me on day 2, "Mom says she can't afford a plane ticket. Dad says he's too busy with work." She'd made air quotes with her fingers, her mouth tight. CPS is involved, but you know how that goes. I did. So I stayed with Lily. Not because it was my job, though technically it was, but because no one else was going to. It was 10:30 on a Tuesday night, my second 12-hour shift in a row, when Lily woke up and asked. I was adjusting her morphine pump, making sure the line wasn't kinked. Her femur had been surgically pinned 3 days ago, and she was still in a lot of pain. She blinked up at me, her brown eyes huge in her small face. "Do the people who love you come visit you at work?" she asked. I paused. "What do you mean, sweetie?" "Like your family. Do they come see you here?" I smiled. It felt automatic. "No, they're busy." Lily looked at me for a long moment. Then she said very seriously, "People who really love you show up, even when they're busy." I felt something crack inside my chest. "Where'd you hear that?" I asked quietly. She shrugged, or tried to. The movement made her wince. "My teacher said it once, Mrs. Alvarez. She said love isn't just saying it, it's showing up." I stood there with my hand on the morphine pump, staring at this 9-year-old kid whose parents couldn't be bothered to visit her in the ICU, and I realized she was right. "Yeah," I said softly. "Mrs. Alvarez sounds pretty smart." Lily nodded. Then she closed her eyes and drifted back to sleep. I walked out of her room, down the hall, past the nurse's station, and into the supply closet. I shut the door. I pressed my hands against my face and cried for 30 seconds. Then I washed my face in the little sink, dried it with a paper towel, and went back to work. I thought about Lily's words for 4 days straight. People who really love you show up. I thought about them when I checked my phone during my break and saw 3 texts from my mother asking when I'd have time to pick up groceries. Not, "How are you?" or "Hope work is going okay." Just, "We're out of milk. Can you swing by Publix tomorrow?" I thought about them when Sloan sent me a voice memo, 47 seconds long, explaining why she needed another $300 for a business investment opportunity. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't even say thank you. I thought about them when my father called on Thursday morning and left a voicemail. "Greer, it's Dad. The mortgage is due Monday. Just reminding you." Not, "Hey, Peanut, how's the hospital?" Not, "You doing okay? I know you've been working a lot." Just, "The mortgage is due." On Saturday morning, 4 days after Lily asked me that question, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot after my shift and opened my text messages. I scrolled back through the past month. 23 texts from my family. I counted them. 16 from my mother, all about groceries bills or Sloan needing something. 5 from Sloan, all asking for money or borrowing my Netflix password or complaining about an Instagram brand deal that fell through. 2 from my father, both about the mortgage. 0 asking if I was okay. Not 1. I sat there staring at my phone screen and I thought about Lily lying in that hospital bed with no visitors. I thought about the stuffed bear on her nightstand, the $12 one from the hospital gift shop that I'd bought with my own money because no one else had brought her anything. I thought about the get well cards taped to her wall, all signed by nurses. Not family, nurses. And I thought she's 9 years old and she already understands something I've been trying to ignore for 5 years. Love wasn't just saying it. It was showing up. And my family had never, not once, shown up for me. They showed up when they needed money. They showed up when they needed groceries. They showed up when they wanted something from me. But they didn't show up to ask if I was okay, if I was tired, if I needed help, if I was drowning. Lily was right. And so was Mrs. Alvarez. I went home. I charged my phone. I checked the Anchor power bank in my purse. And the next time I walked into my parents' house with my phone recording in my pocket, I wasn't afraid of what I might hear. I was ready. Because the people who loved you showed up. And I was done pretending my family ever had. I stood outside my parents' front door on a Thursday night with my phone in my hand, my finger hovering over the record button. This was it. Week 3, the first real test. I'd practiced this 17 times in my apartment. I'd tested the app, checked the audio quality, memorized Palmer's instructions. But standing here, on the porch of the house I grew up in, about to record my own father, felt different. My phone was at 100%. The Anchor power bank was in my purse. I told myself I was ready. I took a breath, and I hit record. The house smelled like microwaved lasagna and old carpet. My mother's voice drifted from the kitchen. "Greer, that you—" "Yeah, Mom," I called. I brought groceries. I set the bags on the counter. Publix, same as always. Milk bread, deli turkey, the little Ensure. Shakes my father drank. My mother didn't look up from her phone. She was scrolling through Facebook, her reading glasses perched on her nose. "Your father's in the garage," she said absently. "Something with the lawnmower." Okay. I stood there for a moment, my phone in my jacket pocket, recording. Waiting. My mother kept scrolling. I could hear my father's voice through the door to the garage, muffled, indistinct. And then I heard him say a name I didn't recognize. "Simone, it's me." I froze. My mother didn't react. She was still on Facebook, oblivious. But I heard my father's voice clearly now. He must have been standing right by the door, or maybe he had the call on speakerphone. His voice was loud, casual, like he wasn't saying anything that mattered. "Levi needs $600 for books, and a laptop charger, I think. I'll pull it from Greer's transfer this month." My heart stopped. I stood in the kitchen, my hand gripping the edge of the counter, and I listened. A woman's voice came through, tinny distant but clear enough. Speakerphone. "Warren, we've been doing this for 16 years. How much longer?" 16 years. "Just until he turns 18, my father said. "2 more years, Simone, then we're done. We owe $48,000 in back child support," the woman said. Her voice was tired, resigned. What happens when someone finds out? No one's going to find out. My father's voice was firm, confident. "Vivienne doesn't know. Greer doesn't know. Once Levi's 18, it's over. No more payments. No more risk." There was a pause. Then Simone, because that's who she was, I understood now, said quietly, "This isn't fair to him, Warren. It's not fair to Greer either." "Greer's fine," my father said. "She doesn't need to know." I don't remember walking out of the kitchen. I don't remember opening the front door. I don't remember getting into my car. But somehow I was sitting in the driver's seat of my Corolla parked on the street in front of my parents' house, and I couldn't breathe. I bent over the grass next to the curb and threw up. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't quiet. I heaved twice my stomach, cramping my throat, burning. I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand and stayed bent over my palms on my knees, trying to pull air into my lungs. 16 years. My father had a son, a 16-year-old son, and he'd been stealing $600 a month from the money I sent home to pay for him. I sat back in my car, closed the door, and started crying. Not the kind of crying you can stop, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and ugly and won't let go. I sobbed until my chest hurt, until my face was wet and my nose was running and I couldn't catch my breath. I cried for 20 minutes in the front seat of my car parked outside the house where I grew up, and I didn't care if anyone saw me, because my father, the man who called me Peanut, who taught me how to ride a bike, who told me he was proud of me when I graduated nursing school, had been lying to me for 16 years. He had a son I'd never met, a son I'd been paying for without knowing it. $48,000 in back child support, $600 a month stolen from my transfers, and my mother didn't even know. I drove home. I don't remember the drive. I got there somehow. 15 minutes on I-240 past the exits I'd taken 1,000 times. And I sat on my couch in my dark apartment and stared at the wall. At 11:30, I picked up my phone and Googled the number my father had called. It took me 10 minutes, but I found her. Simone Keller, 45, DMV worker in Hendersonville. Her Facebook profile was public. I scrolled through her photos, and then I saw him. A teenage boy, 16, maybe 17, dark hair, tall, lanky, wearing a Hendersonville high school soccer jersey in one photo, standing next to Simone in another. He had my father's jawline, my father's nose, my father's eyes. I stared at that photo for 5 full minutes and all I could think was, oh God, he's real. At 1:03 a.m., I opened Palmer's encrypted Google Drive folder. I uploaded the recording, labeled it Recording 1, Warren Bellamy, Secret Child, $48,000 debt. Then I texted Palmer, I have a half-brother I never knew about. My father's been stealing $600 a month from me for 16 years to support him. Back child support debt, $48,000. Call me when you wake up. I set my phone down. I sat in the dark, and I thought, this is just the beginning. If my father had been lying for 16 years, hiding a whole child an entire second life, what else had I missed? What else were they hiding? I had 5 weeks left until my birthday. 5 weeks until 40 people gathered in my parents' living room to humiliate me in front of everyone I knew. 5 weeks to find every secret they'd buried. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready, because Recording 1 was done. And I was just getting started. The kitchen smelled like burned coffee and the floral hand soap my mother always used. I heard her voice before I saw her. Loud, casual, completely unbothered. I'd driven to my parents' house that Saturday afternoon because my mother had texted asking me to help move some boxes in the garage. But when I stepped through the front door, I heard voices coming from the kitchen. 2 voices, my mother's and her sister's, Aunt Verity. I stopped in the hallway, my hand still on the doorknob, and I listened. My phone was already recording. I'd hit the button the second I'd pulled into the driveway. It was automatic now, a reflex. So the trust fund, Verity was saying. How much did you end up pulling out? I froze. 63,000, my mother said. Her voice was light, almost cheerful. Over the past 3 years. Mama set up that fund back in the 90s for the grandkids. 50,000 for Greer, 50,000 for Sloan. But I'm the trustee, so I have full access. And Greer doesn't know, Verity asked. My mother laughed, actually laughed. She signed a power of attorney when she was 24, Vivian said. Thought she was just helping me manage Mama's medical bills. All I had to do was redirect the trust fund statements to a PO. Box and forge her signature a couple times when I needed to make withdrawals. Honestly, it was easier than I thought it'd be. I felt my knees go weak. What about the rest of it? Verity asked. There's still 37,000 left, right? Yeah, my mother said. I could hear the clink of a coffee mug being set down on the counter. We'll split it when Mama passes. You and me. The girls don't need to know it existed in the first place. There was a pause. Then Verity's voice again, quieter this time. What about Mama's necklace, that sapphire one, the Art Deco piece? Sold it last year. My mother said casual as anything. Got $1,150 at a pawn shop in Hendersonville. Told Mama she must have misplaced it. She's 79. Her memory's not what it used to be. I stood in that hallway with my hand gripping the doorknob so hard my knuckles went white, and I thought I might actually pass out. My mother had stolen $63,000 from a trust fund my grandmother had set up for me. She'd forged my signature. She'd sold my grandmother's necklace, a necklace that had been in our family for 50 years, and lied to her face about it. And she was laughing. I backed out of the house as quietly as I'd come in, got into my car, started the engine with shaking hands, and I drove straight to Pine Haven. Pine Haven Residence was a 15-minute drive north tucked into a quiet neighborhood off Merriman Avenue. It was one of the nicer senior living facilities in Asheville, clean bright with wide hallways that smelled faintly of lavender and industrial-strength floor cleaner. I signed in at the front desk. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, smiled at me. "Here to see Cora Bellamy?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. Room 214, she's been asking about you." My throat tightened. Thank you. I found my grandmother sitting in the armchair by her window, looking out at the small courtyard garden below. She was wearing a pale blue cardigan and her favorite pearl earrings, the ones my grandfather had given her on their 40th anniversary. Her hair was white and carefully styled, and when she turned and saw me standing in the doorway, her whole face lit up. "Greer, sweetheart, I didn't know you were coming today." I crossed the room and bent down to hug her. She smelled like lavender and powder and something else I couldn't name. Something that just smelled like Grandma. Her arms were thin, her hands spotted with age, but her grip was still strong. I was in the neighborhood, I lied. Thought I'd stop by. She patted the chair next to hers. "Sit. Tell me about work. How are things at the hospital? I sat. We talked for 20 minutes about the PICU, about the weather, about the book club she'd started with some of the other residents. She told me about a new friend she'd made, a woman named Dorothy, who taught high school English for 30 years and had opinions about everything. She was sharp, funny. Her mind was as clear as it had ever been. And then she said, "Oh, Greer, I've been meaning to ask you. Do you remember that sapphire necklace of mine? The Art Deco one your grandfather bought it for me in 1972 at a little antique shop in Charleston. I wanted to give it to you for your 30th birthday next month." My heart stopped. I can't find it. She continued, frowning slightly. "I've looked everywhere in my jewelry box. I thought maybe your mother took it home to keep it safe, but I can't remember. Have you seen it?" I swallowed hard, forced a smile. "Mom's keeping it at the house, Grandma," I said. My voice sounded steady, normal. "She didn't want it to get lost here. I'll bring it next time I visit, okay?" She smiled, relieved. "Oh, good. I was worried I'd misplaced it. Your grandfather saved for 14 months to buy me that necklace. It means the world to me." I nodded, smiled, hugged her again before I left. And the entire time I wanted to scream. I walked out of Pine Haven and got into my car. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the steering wheel just to hold them still. My mother had stolen $63,000 from me. She'd sold my grandmother's most precious possession for $1,150 and lied about it. And I'd just lied to my grandmother's face to cover for her. I sat there in the parking lot for 10 minutes staring at nothing, and then I drove home. That night, I uploaded Recording 2 to Palmer's encrypted folder. I labeled it Recording 2, Vivian Bellamy. Embezzlement. $63,000 trust fund theft, plus $1,150 sapphire necklace. Then I sat on my bathroom floor and cried for 10 minutes. Because my mother had stolen from her own mother. Because I'd just lied to the one person in my family who had never ever lied to me. Because I had to keep lying for 4 more weeks. Until I had everything I needed to burn it all down. I noticed the sunglasses first. Sloan was wearing them indoors at the dinner table on a Sunday evening in late May when the sun had already set an hour ago. Oversized, dark lenses, the kind celebrities wore to hide from paparazzi. Except my sister had 3,400 Instagram followers, not 34 million. And we were sitting in our parents' dining room eating pot roast, not at some red carpet event. "Sloan," I said carefully, "why are you wearing sunglasses?" She didn't look up from her plate, just pushed mashed potatoes around with her fork. "Migraine," she said. Her voice was flat, quiet. That was the second strange thing. Sloan was never quiet. "Honey, you should have stayed home if you weren't feeling well," my mother said, not looking up from her phone. "I'm fine," Sloan muttered. My father reached across the table for the salt shaker. His arm passed close to Sloan's face. She flinched. Just a tiny movement, a half-second jerk of her shoulders, her head pulling back. But I saw it, and I knew. I volunteered to do the dishes. I always did. It was easier than sitting in the living room pretending to care about whatever my parents were watching on TV. But tonight I had another reason. I stood at the sink with my phone recording in my apron pocket, and I washed plates slowly, carefully, listening. My mother's voice drifted in from the living room. "Sloan, we need to talk about this." I turned off the faucet, held my breath. "I can't do this anymore." Sloan's voice, shaking. "He threw a glass at me last night. It shattered against the wall right next to my head." I froze my hands still in the dishwater. "Sloan." My mother's voice was sharp, impatient. "Every marriage has rough patches. Jasper's under a lot of stress with work right now." "He threw a glass at my head, Mom." "He didn't hit you," my mother snapped. "He lost his temper, that's different." I heard my father clear his throat. "If you divorce him," Warren said slowly, "we lose $3,200 a month. Your mother and I have talked about this, Sloan. This family can't afford that right now. We're already stretched thin." Silence. Then Sloan, barely audible. "So I'm supposed to just, let him hurt me?" "He's not hurting you," my mother said. "He gets frustrated sometimes. That's normal. You just need to be more careful about how you talk to him. You know how he gets when you're on your phone all the time posting those ridiculous Instagram stories." "Vivian's right," my father said. "Jasper promised he'd work on his anger. He's seeing someone about it, a counselor. You just need to give him time. I'm scared of him, Sloane whispered. Then maybe, my mother said coldly, you should stop provoking him. I stood there at the sink with my hands submerged in cold, greasy dishwater, and I felt something twist violently in my chest. My sister was being abused, and my parents were telling her it was her fault. I pulled my hands out of the sink, dried them on a towel, walked quietly to the back door and let myself out into the cool night air. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could trust myself to drive. I called Palmer the second I got home. Greer. He sounded worried. It's almost 9. You okay? No, I said. My voice came out flat, hollow. Palmer, I need to know something, legally. If someone's being abused, domestic violence, but they won't report, is there anything anyone else can do? There was a pause. Who's being abused? Palmer asked carefully. Sloane. I swallowed. My sister. Her husband threw a glass at her head. My parents told her to stop provoking him. They're worried about losing his income if she leaves. Jesus Christ, Palmer muttered. Greer, that's felony assault. Throwing objects, making threats. That's domestic violence. She needs to file a police report. She won't, I said. She's scared, and my parents are actively discouraging her from leaving. Palmer was quiet for a moment. Here's the reality, he said finally. In North Carolina, police can't intervene in a domestic violence situation unless the victim presses charges or there's immediate danger. If Sloane won't report it, there's legally nothing you or I can do to force her husband to face consequences. So she's just stuck, my voice cracked. No, but she has to be the one to get unstuck. You can't save someone who won't save themselves, Greer. He paused. But you can document it. If she ever decides to leave, if she ever needs proof that her family enabled the abuse, that recording you just made, that'll matter. I closed my eyes. I hate her, Palmer, I whispered. She's lied to me, stolen from me, manipulated everyone around her for years. I hate her. I know, but I don't want her to die. I know, Palmer said again, softer this time. That night, I sat on my couch and uploaded recording 3 to Palmer's encrypted folder. I labeled it recording 3. Sloane Vaughn, domestic violence, family complicity, $3,200 per month. Then I stared at that label for a long time. My sister was a liar, a thief, a manipulator who'd spent years making my life harder. And she was also trapped in a marriage with a man who threw glass at her head while our parents told her it was her fault because they didn't want to lose his paycheck. Both things were true. I hated Sloane, and I didn't want her to die. I sat there in the dark and I thought about the intervention. 3 weeks away, 40 people. My mother planning to humiliate me in front of everyone I knew. And I thought they're going to tell everyone I'm controlling. Manipulative. A bad daughter, a bad sister. And I was going to play them a recording of my parents choosing $3,200 a month over their youngest daughter's safety. I picked up my phone and texted Palmer. Recording 3 uploaded. DV plus enabling. Parents told her to stop provoking him. 3 weeks left. He responded 2 minutes later. How are you holding up? I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed, I don't know anymore, but I'm not stopping. 3 recordings down. My father's secret child, my mother's embezzlement, my parents enabling my sister's abuse for money. 3 weeks until my birthday. And the worst part, I wasn't done yet. I wasn't supposed to be at my parents' house that Thursday night, but my mother had texted me at 6:30 asking if I could pick up her blood pressure medication at Walgreens and drop it off before the pharmacy closed at 8. And because I was still somehow the person who said yes to everything, I went. I knocked on the front door at 7:45. No answer. I tried the handle. Locked. I pulled out my spare key, the one I'd had since I was 16, and let myself in. That's when I heard my mother's voice coming from the living room. Darlene, I wanted to talk to you about your son. I froze in the hallway, my hand still on the doorknob. My phone was already recording. Habit now, reflex. Preston, my mother continued. I know he's been going through a difficult time since the second divorce. I didn't recognize the name. Preston who? A woman's voice came through. Speakerphone tinny but clear. Darlene. I knew that name. One of my mother's church friends. A woman in her 60s who wore too much floral perfume and talked loudly during coffee hour. "Oh, he's doing fine now, Vivian," Darlene said. "He's thrown himself into work. But yes, he has been lonely." "Well," my mother said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "My daughter Greer is single, 28 years old. She's a PICU nurse. Very responsible. Sweet girl. Quiet." I thought maybe if Preston was open to it. My stomach dropped. "Oh," Darlene sounded delighted. "What a lovely idea. Preston's 48, but he's very successful, Vivian. His company just closed a $4.2 million commercial development deal last month. He's extremely financially secure." "That's wonderful to hear," my mother said warmly. "Here's what I'm thinking. We're having a little family gathering for Greer's birthday, Sunday, June 8th. It would be the perfect opportunity for them to meet, very casual, low pressure." "I'll talk to Preston about it," Darlene said. "I'm sure he'd be happy to come." There was a pause. Then my mother's voice dropped lower. "Conspiratorial. Between you and me, Darlene, Greer's been a little difficult lately. Independent, stubborn. The gathering is going to be a bit of a wake-up call for her. She'll realize how much she needs her family's support, and when Preston shows up, successful, stable, a real gentleman, she'll see what a good match looks like. She'll be grateful for the opportunity." Darlene laughed. "You're a smart woman, Vivian." "I just want what's best for my daughter," my mother said sweetly. I backed out of the house as quietly as I'd entered, set the prescription bag on the porch, got into my car, and sat there for 10 minutes with my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I don't remember driving home, but somehow I ended up sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop open, typing Preston Whitmore Asheville into Google. His LinkedIn appeared first. Preston Whitmore, founder and CEO, Whitmore Commercial Properties, Asheville, North Carolina. 48 years old, 2 ex-wives. Both divorces were public record if you knew where to look. Estimated net worth of $4.2 million based on property holdings and business valuations. I clicked through his photos. Silver hair, expensive suits, the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. In one picture, he stood next to an older woman at what looked like a church fundraiser, Darlene Whitmore, his mother. I stared at that photo for a long time. My mother was trying to set me up with a man 20 years older than me, a man I'd never met, a man who'd been divorced twice. Not because she thought we'd be compatible, not because she thought I'd be happy, but because he had $4.2 million, and because she was planning to humiliate me so thoroughly at my own birthday party that I'd be grateful when he showed up to rescue me. I called Palmer at 9:15. "Greer." He sounded worried. "What's wrong?" "They're trying to marry me off," I said. My voice was flat, hollow. "My mother called her church friend tonight. The woman's son is 48, divorced, twice worth $4 million. Mom invited him to my birthday intervention. She told his mother that after the wake-up call, her words, I'll be grateful to meet someone stable and successful." Palmer was silent for several seconds. "Jesus Christ," he finally said. "Greer, that's coercion. They're planning to publicly humiliate you and then present this man as some kind of solution. That's psychological manipulation. Can I stop them?" My hands were shaking. "Legally, can I stop them from inviting him?" "No," Palmer said gently. "It's their house, their guest list. But you need to record everything that happens that night. Every interaction with this Preston guy, every word your parents say. If they pressure you into any kind of contact or relationship with him, that's evidence of coercive control." "Palmer," my voice cracked. "They're treating me like I'm for sale." "I know," he said quietly. "That's exactly what they're doing." After I hung up, I sat in my dark kitchen and thought about that phone call. My mother had described me like livestock at an auction. 28, responsible, sweet, quiet. Not smart, not strong. Not someone who'd saved children's lives in the PICU. Just attributes that would make me easy to manage, easy to sell, easy for someone like Preston Whitmore, a 48-year-old divorced millionaire, to take off her hands. I opened Palmer's encrypted folder and uploaded the recording. Labeled it Recording 4, Vivian Bellamy, Coercion, Forced Marriage Scheme, Preston Whitmore, 48, divorced 2 times, net worth $4.2 million. Then I sat there staring at that label for a long time. 4 recordings. My father's 16-year-old secret son and $48,000 in stolen child support. My mother's embezzlement of $63,000 from my inheritance and the sale of my grandmother's irreplaceable necklace. My parents enabling my sister's domestic abuse because they needed her husband's paycheck. And now this. My mother trying to break me down in front of 40 people so she could hand me off to a wealthy stranger like I was a piece of property she needed to unload. I texted Palmer, recording 4 uploaded, forced marriage setup. Mom described me like livestock. 3 weeks left. He responded immediately. When you play these recordings at that intervention, everyone's going to hear what they really think of you. That's your power. Hold on to it. I stared at that text. 3 weeks left. 4 recordings. And I finally understood what my birthday intervention really was. It wasn't about helping me. It wasn't about family. It was about breaking me down so someone else could own me. I wasn't going to let that happen. The text came through at 11:42 on a Friday night. I was already in bed half asleep when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Alert Discover card ending in 782. 3 is 60 days past due. Balance $8,247.18. Immediate payment required to avoid further collection action. I stared at the screen confused. I didn't have a Discover card. I sat up, opened my banking app, checked my accounts. Nothing unusual. Then I opened my credit monitoring app, Credit Karma, the one I downloaded years ago and barely looked at. And I saw it. Discover card. Opened 18 months ago. Balance $8,247.18. 60 days past due. My hands started shaking. I scrolled down. Capital One. Quicksilver. Opened 16 months ago. Balance $11,438.92. 30 days past due. Chase Freedom. Opened 15 months ago. Balance $8,806.45. Current. I did the math in my head. $28,492. In debt. On credit cards I'd never opened. My chest tightened. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set the phone down on the nightstand before I dropped it. $28,000. In my name. On my credit report. Destroying my credit score. And I hadn't spent a single cent of it. I thought about every shift I'd worked, every patient I'd saved, every dollar I'd sent home to people who were actively destroying me, and I couldn't breathe. I pulled my laptop off the floor and opened annualcreditreport.com, typed in my information with shaking fingers, waited for the page to load, and there they were. All 3 cards, opened in my name, my social security number, my date of birth, but not my address. The billing address listed was 432 Haywood Road, Asheville, North Carolina, my sister's house. I stared at that address for a full minute. I knew that address. I'd driven past it a dozen times in the past year. A small brick duplex 3 miles from downtown, tucked behind a Walgreens and a Mexican restaurant. I dropped off birthday gifts there twice, once for Sloane's 25th birthday, once for Christmas. Back when I still believed in family traditions. Back when I thought things might get better. I called Palmer at 12:45 in the morning. He answered on the 4th ring, groggy. "Greer, what's wrong?" "Someone opened credit cards in my name," I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. 3 of them, $28,000. The address is Sloane's house. There was a pause. Then I heard rustling Palmer sitting up, fully awake now. "Jesus, Greer, that's identity theft, federal crime. You need to call the FBI fraud hotline right now and file a police report." "No," I said. "What?" "I need to get a recording first." "Greer, if I report it now, Sloane will know. She'll destroy any evidence. I need to hear her admit it. Palmer, please, one more day. Let me get the recording tomorrow, and then I'll file the report." He was quiet for a long moment. "Okay," he said finally. "But the second you have that recording, you freeze your credit and file with the police. This is serious, Greer. Identity theft over $25,000 can get someone 5 years in federal prison." "Good," I said. Saturday afternoon, I texted Sloane. "Hey, I have that Tupperware container you lent Mom last month. Can I drop it off this afternoon?" She responded 10 minutes later. "Sure, I'm home till 4. I showed up at 3:15 with an empty Tupperware container I'd pulled out of my own cabinet. The apartment complex sat 3 miles from downtown Red Brick with a gate code I'd memorized months ago. I parked on the street, grabbed the container, and walked up the path to her door. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. Then I heard her voice muffled coming from somewhere inside the house, probably the back porch or an upstairs window. She was on the phone. I stepped off the porch and walked quietly around the side of the house. There was a window cracked open, her bedroom probably, and I could hear her clearly now. My phone was already recording. "Tegan, it's working perfectly," Sloan said. Her voice was bright, excited. "I've been using Greer's information for 1.5 years now, 3 credit cards. I keep every charge under $200 so she doesn't get alerts. 28,000 so far. It's been so helpful." A woman's voice, Tegan, whoever that was, laughed on the other end. "What if she finds out before Sunday?" Tegan asked. "She won't," Sloan said confidently. "And even if she does, it doesn't matter. After the intervention, I'll just tell everyone she's the one with the shopping addiction, and she's trying to blame me to cover it up. Mom and Dad will back me up. They always do." "You're evil," Tegan said, still laughing. "I love it." "It's not evil," Sloan replied. "It's survival. Greer makes like $60,000 a year, and she sends half of it home to Mom and Dad anyway. She can afford to help me out." I stood there under that window with my phone in my hand, recording every word, and I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. This was different from the other recordings. This wasn't my parents stealing money or enabling abuse. This was my sister planning to frame me for her own crime in front of 40 people. On a live stream, she was going to stand in that living room and tell everyone I was the thief, the liar, the unstable one, and they would believe her, because they always did, because I was convenient and Sloan was convincing. I backed away from the window as quietly as I'd come, got in my car, started the engine with shaking hands. I got back to my apartment at 4:30, uploaded the file to Palmer's folder immediately, labeled it Recording 5, Sloan Bellamy, Identity theft, federal felony, $28,492.55, 3 credit cards, 18 months fraud. Then I called Palmer. "I got it," I said. She confessed. Everything. The 3 cards, the amounts, keeping charges under $200 to avoid alerts, and she admitted she's planning to frame me for it at the intervention. "Tell everyone I'm the one with the shopping problem." Palmer was silent for several seconds. "Greer, this is a smoking gun. Federal prosecutors would kill for audio evidence this clean. Identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy. Your sister just confessed to multiple felonies on tape. How long could she go to prison?" I asked. 2 to 5 years minimum for identity theft at this dollar amount, possibly more if they add charges, and that's just federal. North Carolina has its own identity theft statutes. I closed my eyes. "Good. File the police report tonight," Palmer said, "and freeze your credit with all 3 bureaus. I'll send you the links." "Okay." "And Greer." His voice softened. "How are you holding up?" I looked at my laptop screen, at the folder Palmer had created 8 weeks ago. Evidence_2024. Inside 5 recordings. My father's secret child and $48,000 in stolen child support. My mother's embezzlement and the sale of my grandmother's necklace. My parents enabling my sister's abuse for money. My mother's plan to marry me off to a stranger after publicly humiliating me. And now this. My sister stealing my identity, $28,000 in fraud, planning to frame me for her own crimes in front of 40 people while my parents backed her up. "I'm tired," I said honestly, "but I have 2 weeks left. I can make it 2 more weeks." "You're almost there," Palmer said. That night I sat on my couch and thought about what Sloan had said. After the intervention, I'll tell everyone she's the one with the shopping addiction. My sister hadn't just stolen from me. She'd planned to destroy my reputation, frame me for her own crime, turn 40 people against me, and my parents would have helped her do it. I texted Palmer, "Recording 5 uploaded, identity theft confession. She's planning to frame me Sunday, 2 weeks left." He responded immediately, 2 weeks, then you burn it all down. 2 2 weeks until my 30th birthday. 5 recordings, 5 crimes, and I was going to make sure everyone heard every single one. The email from Mission Hospital HR arrived at 2:37 on a Sunday afternoon. Subject line, confidential. Employee conduct inquiry. I opened it on my phone, still in my pajamas, coffee going cold on the kitchen counter. Dear Ms. Bellamy, we have received anonymous concerns regarding professional conduct and workplace behavior. Per hospital policy, we are required to document all reports. Please schedule a meeting with Dr. Rhodes Monday morning at 8 a.m. to discuss. This is a confidential inquiry and does not constitute formal disciplinary action at this time. Mission: Hospital Human Resources. I read it twice, then a third time. Anonymous concerns, professional conduct. I set my phone down and stared at the wall. My hands were shaking. My coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but I picked it up anyway and took a sip. It tasted bitter. Wrong. I'd spent 6 years building my career. 6 years of 12-hour shifts, pediatric trauma certifications, Daisy Award nominations. I'd held dying children in my arms. I'd saved lives. I'd worked through holidays, missed birthdays, skipped meals because a patient needed me more than I needed rest. And now someone, Sloan, was trying to take it all away with 3 anonymous emails and a fake mental health crisis. I hadn't done anything wrong. Monday morning at 8 a.m., I sat across from Dr. Rhodes in his office with the door closed. He looked uncomfortable. Wouldn't meet my eyes. He had a stack of files on his desk, patient charts probably, but his hands kept fidgeting with a pen, clicking it open and closed. Click, click, click. Greer, he said finally, I've received 3 separate complaints over the past 4 months. Anonymous emails sent directly to HR. They allege concerning behavior, emotional instability, possible substance use. One report claimed you snapped at a patient's mother during a consultation. My stomach dropped. Dr. Rhodes, none of that is true. I know, he said quickly. Your work has been exemplary. I don't believe these allegations. But HR requires me to follow protocol. So I have to ask, are you experiencing any mental health challenges? Substance abuse issues? Anything affecting your performance? No, I said firmly. Someone is lying about me. He nodded slowly. I thought so. But I need you to understand, if more complaints come in, I may have no choice but to put you on administrative leave pending a formal investigation. It's hospital policy. Administrative leave meant no work, no income, no way to pay rent or the money I'd been sending home for 5 years. No way to survive. Who sent the emails, I asked. They're anonymous, sent from a generic email account, untraceable. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Untraceable. Of course they were. I remembered something Shelby had said 2 weeks ago. We'd been charting after a shift when she pulled me aside in the break room. Her face had been serious, her voice low. Hey, she'd said quietly. Someone asked me last week if you were having problems, like drinking or pills or something. I told them that was insane, but I thought you should know people are talking. Or I'd brushed it off at the time, thought it was random hospital gossip, someone bored on a night shift making up drama to pass the time. Now I understood. It wasn't random. It was Sloan. She'd spent 6 months systematically poisoning every well I drank from. Family, church, co-workers, and I'd had no idea until it was almost too late. That evening, I drove to my parents' house to drop off groceries. I'd been doing it every Sunday for 5 years. If I suddenly stopped, they'd know something was wrong. I set the bags on the counter, listened. My mother was watching TV in the living room. My father was in the garage. And I heard Sloan's voice coming from the back porch on the phone, loud and clear through the screen door. My phone was already recording. I've been working on this for 6 months. Sloan said, her voice bright with pride. I called Aunt Lorraine cousin Everett Curtis from Church Glen, next door Estelle from Mom's book club. Told all of them Greer's been drinking, threatening Mom and Dad, controlling everyone with money. They all believe it. A woman's voice on the other end, and the hospital, 3 anonymous emails to HR over 4 months. Sloan said casually. Said she's mentally unstable. Might be abusing prescription drugs. Heard her yell at a patient's mom. All lies, obviously. But it plants the seed. You're a genius. Sloan laughed. By the time next Sunday rolls around, all 40 people at the intervention will already think she's crazy. It won't be a surprise. It'll be a relief. Like finally someone's doing something about Greer. I stood there in the kitchen with my hand pressed over my mouth, trying not to make a sound. My vision blurred, my chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. 6 months. She'd been doing this for 6 months, while I was working 12-hour shifts, while I was sending money home, while I was dropping off groceries every Sunday like a good daughter. She'd been destroying me. I left without saying goodbye, got in my car, drove home. I made it 3 blocks before I had to pull over because my hands were shaking so hard I couldn't hold the steering wheel. I sat there in a Walgreens parking lot for 15 minutes, gripping the wheel, trying to breathe. Called Palmer at 9:47 p.m. She's been lying about me for 6 months, I said, voice shaking. To family, to church people, to my employer. 3 anonymous complaints to hospital HR trying to get me fired. She's been systematically destroying my reputation, so when they humiliate me next Sunday, no one will question it. Palmer was quiet for a long moment. Greer, that's defamation, slander, and libel. She damaged your professional reputation. That's a civil tort. The hospital complaints are workplace harassment, and this proves malice, premeditation. She didn't just lie once she ran a 6-month campaign to destroy you. Can I sue her? I asked. Yes, but first we finish what we started. You play that recording next Sunday. You let everyone hear what she did. Then we file. That night, I uploaded Recording 6 to Palmer's encrypted folder. Recording 6, Sloan Bellamy, defamation, 6-month reputation assassination campaign, hospital HR complaints plus extended family/church lies. I sat there staring at the label. My sister hadn't just stolen my money. She hadn't just stolen my identity. She'd spent 6 months systematically destroying my reputation with everyone I knew, family, friends, church members, colleagues, so that when she publicly humiliated me next Sunday, no one would question whether I deserved it. 40 people were going to show up at that intervention already believing I was unstable, dangerous, out of control, because my sister had spent half a year making sure they would. I thought about Shelby's warning. Someone asked me if you were having problems. I thought about Dr. Rhodes's uncomfortable expression. 3 complaints. I thought about the people at church who'd stopped making eye contact with me over the past few months, the neighbors who didn't wave anymore, the cousins who didn't return my texts. I thought I was imagining it. I wasn't. Sloan had been building a narrative, a story where I was the villain, the unstable one, the one who needed an intervention. And by the time next Sunday came, everyone would already believe it. I texted Palmer. Recording 6 uploaded. 6-month defamation campaign. Hospital family church. 1 week left. He responded immediately. 1 more week, then you show them the truth. 1 week left. 6 recordings. And I was going to make sure every single person who believed my sister's lies heard her admit in her own voice that she'd been lying all along. I saw them through the window of Strada Italiano on a Tuesday night. Sloan and a man I hadn't seen in 3 years, Camden Foster, my ex-boyfriend. I'd stopped to pick up a takeout order on my way home from a 12-hour shift. I was exhausted, starving. I'd called in the order 20 minutes earlier, chicken parmesan side salad, and I was standing at the hostess stand waiting when I looked through the window into the dining room. And there they were. Corner booth, wine glasses. Sloan laughing at something he'd said, her hand reaching across the table to touch his. Camden Foster, 29 years old, physical therapist at a sports clinic downtown. We dated for 2 years when I was in my mid-20s. He'd broken up with me 3 years ago, said he wasn't ready for serious commitment, needed to focus on his career. Apparently he was ready now, just not with me. I didn't go inside. I took my takeout bag, walked back to my car, and sat there in the parking lot with the engine off. 10 minutes later, they came out together. Sloan's car. The Nissan Rogue I'd been helping pay off for 2 years. Camden got in the passenger seat. I followed them. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Or maybe I'd been recording my family's lies for so long that I couldn't stop myself. They drove to Sloan's house, parked in the driveway. I parked down the street, waited 5 minutes. Then I got out and walked quietly up the side yard. Her bedroom window was cracked open. Warm May night. I could hear their voices clearly. My phone was already recording. "So Sunday," Camden was saying. "That's the big day, your family's intervention thing." "Yeah," Sloane's voice. "After that, Greer and I are done, completely cut off. Then you and I can go public. No more sneaking around." "You sure she won't try to fight back?" Sloane laughed. "She can't. I've already set it up. I convinced Mom to add a clause to her will. If Greer's ever diagnosed with a mental illness or deemed mentally incompetent, her entire inheritance automatically transfers to me. And after Sunday, with 40 people witnessing her breakdown, getting a doctor to sign off on a psych evaluation will be easy." "Jesus," Camden muttered. "That's cold." "It's smart," Sloane corrected. "And there's more. Grandma Cora's trust fund, the one Mom already stole most of, still has $37,000 left in it. Once Grandma passes, that money goes to me too." "When do you think that'll happen?" Camden asked. There was a pause. Then Sloane said very casually, "She's 79, fragile, living in a senior facility. Accidents happen all the time in those places. A fall down some stairs, a medication error. She won't last much longer, and when she's gone, I'll be the only grandchild left with any legal claim. Greer will be out of the picture completely." "You've really thought this through," Camden said. He didn't sound horrified, he sounded impressed. "I've been planning it for months," Sloane replied. "Sunday's just the beginning." I stood there in the dark under that window with my hand pressed over my mouth, and I felt something cold and terrible settle in my chest. My sister wasn't just a liar. She wasn't just a thief. She was willing to let our grandmother die, or maybe even help it along, so she could inherit money. And she was sleeping with my ex-boyfriend. I backed away from the window as quietly as I could, got to my car, started the engine with shaking hands, and I drove home. I called Palmer at 11:58. He answered groggy. "Greer, it's midnight. I just recorded my sister admitting she wants our grandmother dead," I said. My voice was flat, hollow. "She convinced my mother to change her will so that if I'm declared mentally incompetent, my inheritance goes to Sloane. And after the intervention Sunday, she's planning to get a doctor to sign off on a psychiatric evaluation. She's also having an affair with my ex-boyfriend. And she just told him that Grandma Cora, who's 79 and living at Pine Haven, probably won't last much longer because accidents happen." Palmer was silent for several seconds. "Greer, that's conspiracy to commit elder abuse. Possibly worse if she's seriously talking about causing your grandmother's death. You need to call Adult Protective Services right now, tonight." "No." "What?" "I'm waiting until Sunday," I said. "I'm going to play this recording in front of 40 people. I want everyone there. My parents, their church friends, doctor. Rhodes, all of them, to hear exactly what my sister is planning. Greer, if something happens to your grandmother before Sunday, it won't," I said. "I'll call Pine Haven first thing in the morning. I'll tell them to put extra safety protocols in place, monitor her medications, make sure she doesn't have any unsupervised visitors. But Palmer, I need this. I need them all to hear what she is." He was quiet for a long time. "Okay," he said finally. "But you call Pine Haven at 8 a.m., and if anything happens to your grandmother before Sunday, you go to the police immediately." "I will." That night, I uploaded Recording 7 to Palmer's encrypted folder. I labeled it Recording 7, Sloane Bellamy, Affair with Camden Foster, Inheritance Fraud via Coerced Will Amendment, Conspiracy to Harm/Endanger Cora Bellamy. I sat there staring at the file name for a long time. My sister was sleeping with the man who'd broken my heart 3 years ago. She'd manipulated our mother into changing her will so I'd lose my inheritance if I was ever declared mentally ill. And she just admitted, out loud on a recording, that she was willing to let our 79-year-old grandmother die in an accident so she could take the last of the trust fund money. I texted Palmer, Recording 7 uploaded, Affair with my ex, Inheritance Scheme, Threat to Grandma Cora, 6 days left. He responded immediately, Call Pine Haven at 8 a.m. Promise me. I promise. 6 days until my 30th birthday. 7 recordings. My mother's embezzlement of my inheritance and the sale of my grandmother's necklace. My mother's embezzlement of my inheritance and the sale of my grandmother's necklace. My parents enabling my sister's abuse for money, my mother's plan to marry me off to a stranger, my sister's identity theft, her 6-month campaign to destroy my reputation, and now this, an affair with my ex-boyfriend, a scheme to steal my inheritance, and a plan to let my grandmother die. I looked at Palmer's folder on my laptop screen. Evidence_2024, 7 recordings, 40 people, Sunday at 6 p.m. I was going to play every single one. Palmer and I met at the Drippolator Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. He'd brought a yellow legal pad covered in notes. I'd brought 7 recordings and a plan to burn my life down. Okay, Palmer said, setting his coffee down. 6 days. Let's make sure we have everything. He flipped open the legal pad. I recognized his handwriting, neat, methodical, the same way he'd taken notes in our college organic chemistry class a decade ago. Step 1, backup recording. Harper's gonna be there, Palmer said. Your college roommate. She'll sit in the 3rd row with an iPad. Not live streaming, just local recording. If Sloan tries to shut down her Instagram live mid-event, we'll still have video evidence of everything that happens. I nodded. I texted her yesterday. She said she'd do it. Good. She needs to be subtle. No one can know she's recording until it's too late. Step 2, equipment check. Palmer looked up at me. The speaker, you tested it. 17 times, I said. JBL Flip 5, 12-hour battery life. I'm charging it fully Saturday night. I've connected it to my phone via Bluetooth. All 7 recordings play clearly. I can hear every word even from the back of the room. Order. Chronological. Recording 1 through 7. I want them to hear it build. The secret child, the embezzlement, the abuse, the forced marriage, the identity theft, the defamation, and then the final one, the affair and the inheritance scheme. Palmer made a note. That's good. Crescendo effect. By the time you get to 7, they'll be reeling. Step 3, legal statements. He pulled 2 printed documents from his messenger bag, slid them across the table. 2 copies, he said. 1 for you to read at the intervention. Keep it short, just the facts. I have recordings proving multiple crimes. Law enforcement will be contacted. The 2nd copy is for the police report Monday morning. That one's detailed. Transcripts, timestamps, legal analysis. I picked up the first statement, read it. For the past 8 weeks, I've been secretly recording conversations involving members of my family. These recordings document multiple criminal offenses, including identity theft, financial fraud, defamation, and conspiracy to commit elder abuse. I am making these recordings public today so that everyone present understands the truth. Law enforcement has been notified and will be provided with copies of all evidence. It was 3 paragraphs, clinical, factual. I folded it and put it in my purse. Step 4, exit strategy. You're not staying after the recordings play, Palmer said firmly. You say your piece, you play the files, you read the statement, and you leave. I'll be parked 2 houses down. You walk out, get in my car, and we drive away. No confrontation, no argument. You don't owe them a conversation. What if they try to stop me? They won't. They'll be too shocked. And if anyone tries, your father, Jasper, anyone, you say one sentence, I have already contacted law enforcement. Then you leave. I took a breath. What about Dr. Rhodes? He's going to be there. He doesn't know what's coming. He'll figure it out fast, Palmer said. And honestly, Greer, he needs to hear this. He needs to know what Sloan's been doing to you. The anonymous complaints, the lies. That afternoon, I went home and tested everything again. I connected my phone to the JBL speaker, played recording 1. My father's voice filled my tiny apartment. Levi needs $600. I'll pull it from Greer's transfer. I turned up the volume, listened to all 7 recordings back to back. An hour and 43 minutes of audio. Proof of every lie, every theft, every crime. When the last recording ended, Sloan's voice saying, accidents happen. She won't last much longer. I sat there in silence. 5 days. Friday evening, I was at my parents' house, dropping off groceries, when I heard Sloan on the phone in the living room. I stopped in the hallway, hit record. I DM'd her boss on Instagram. Sloan was saying, her voice bright with pride. Dr. Rhodes told him Greer's having a mental breakdown after some code blue thing at work. Said we're doing an intervention Sunday with a licensed counselor, and we need him there to evaluate if she's safe to keep working with kids. A woman's voice on the other end, laughing. And he said yes. Sloan continued. He thinks he's helping. He has no idea. When he shows up Sunday and sees 40 people confronting Greer, he's going to think we're right. That she really is unstable. It's perfect. I stood there with my phone in my hand, recording every word. I called Palmer from my car at 9 p.m. She contacted Dr. Rhodes, I said. My voice was flat, empty. Sent him a fake Instagram DM saying I'm having a breakdown and they need him at the intervention to evaluate my fitness for work. He said yes, he thinks he's coming to help me. Palmer was quiet for several seconds. Okay, he said finally. Let him come. Palmer. Greer, listen to me. When you play those recordings on Sunday, Dr. Rhodes is going to hear your sister admit she sent 3 anonymous complaints to hospital HR. He's going to hear her brag about a 6-month defamation campaign. He's going to understand exactly who the real threat is. He's going to think I ambushed him. Maybe at first, but once he hears the recordings, he'll know the truth. And honestly, having your boss there when you expose all of this might work in your favor. He's a witness, a credible one. That night, I sat on my couch and looked at the checklist Palmer had written on the yellow legal pad. Equipment tested. Backup recording, Harper confirmed. Legal statements printed. Exit strategy planned. Dr. Rhodes manipulated into attending Sloan's move, not ours. Everything was ready. I opened my laptop, looked at Palmer's encrypted folder. Evidence _2024. 7 recordings. 40 witnesses, 5 days. I texted Palmer. What if something goes wrong? He responded immediately. Nothing's going to go wrong. You've spent 8 weeks building an airtight case. Sunday, you're just presenting the evidence. Trust the plan. I stared at that message. 8 weeks, 7 recordings, 56 days of pretending everything was normal while I collected proof of every crime my family had committed. And now, in 5 days, I was going to stand in front of 40 people and play every single one. I texted back, okay, 5 days. Palmer, 5 days, then it's over. 5 days until Sunday. The equipment was tested. The backup plan was in place. Harper had her iPad. Palmer had the legal statements. Dr. Rhodes had been manipulated into attending by my sister's fake concern for my mental health. And I had 7 recordings that were going to detonate like bombs in my parents' living room. The trap was set. My entire family was walking straight into it, and I couldn't wait. I drove to Pine Haven on Saturday afternoon with a bouquet of yellow roses on the passenger seat and a lie prepared on my tongue. Yellow, her favorite color. $18 at the florist on Merriman Avenue, wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. One day before everything ended. Pine Haven smelled the same as always. Lavender and industrial floor cleaner and something faintly medicinal I could never quite name. I signed in at the front desk. The receptionist smiled. Room 214. She'll be so happy to see you. I walked down the hall with the roses in my hand and my heart in my throat. Grandma Cora was sitting in her chair by the window when I knocked. She turned and her whole face lit up. Greer, sweetheart. I crossed the room and hugged her carefully. She felt smaller than I remembered. Frailer. But when she hugged me back, her grip was still strong. I brought you flowers, I said, setting the bouquet on her nightstand. Yellow roses. She smiled. You remembered. Of course I did. She gestured to the chair beside hers. Sit. Tell me everything. How's work? We talked for 20 minutes. I told her about the PICU, about a patient we'd saved last week, a 6-year-old with pneumonia who'd coded twice and somehow pulled through. I didn't tell her about the HR complaints, the anonymous emails, the investigation that could cost me my career. I just talked, and she listened, and for 20 minutes I felt normal. Then she said, "Tomorrow's your 30th birthday, isn't it?" My stomach dropped. Yes, I said carefully. Why wasn't I invited to the party? I forced a smile. It's just a small thing, Grandma, immediate family, nothing fancy. I'll come visit you next week and we'll celebrate properly. Just you and me. She looked at me for a long moment. I couldn't tell if she believed me. All right, she said finally, but you have to let me give you your present. Grandma, you don't have to. Hush. She waved a hand. I've been planning this for months. I want to give you my sapphire necklace, the Art Deco one. Your grandfather bought it for me in Charleston in 1972. Do you remember it? I remembered. I remembered my mother's voice on a recording casual and unbothered sold it last year. Got $1,150. Told Mama she must have misplaced it. I remember, I said quietly. I wanted you to have it for your 30th birthday, Grandma said. It's been in the family for over 50 years, but I can't find it. I've looked everywhere in my jewelry box. I thought maybe your mother took it home to keep it safe. Have you seen it? My throat closed up. I looked at my grandmother. 79 years old, white hair, carefully combed, wearing the pale blue cardigan I'd bought her 2 Christmases ago. And I lied to her face. Mom's keeping it safe at the house, I said. My voice sounded steady. Normal. She didn't want it to get lost here. I'll bring it next week when I visit, okay? She smiled, relieved. Oh, good. I was so worried I'd lost it. Your grandfather worked overtime for 14 months to save up for that necklace. It means everything to me. I nodded, swallowed hard. I know, Grandma. She reached over and took my hand. Her skin was thin, papery. I could see every vein, every age spot. Her wedding ring, the one she'd worn for 56 years before my grandfather died, was loose on her finger now. Greer, she said softly. I need to tell you something. What is it? She looked at me with those sharp blue eyes, the same eyes my father had inherited, the same eyes I saw in the mirror every morning. I've been thinking about something, she said. You know what I've learned in 79 years? I shook my head. The people who truly love you will always show up, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient. If someone says they love you but they never show up when you need them. She squeezed my hand. Then that's not love, sweetheart. That's just words. I felt my eyes start to burn. Do you understand what I'm saying? She asked gently. I nodded. I couldn't speak. Because she was right. My family had never shown up for me. Not once. Not when I was drowning in student loans and working double shifts to stay afloat. Not when I spent 5 years sending them every spare dollar I had. Not when I needed someone to ask if I was okay. They only showed up when they needed something from me. I understand, I whispered. Grandma Cora smiled. Good, because you deserve people who show up, Greer. You deserve people who love you the way you love them. I stood up before I started crying, bent down and hugged her. I love you, Grandma, I said into her shoulder. I love you too, sweetheart. I held on a little longer than I should have, a little tighter, because I didn't know when I'd see her again. I made it to my car before I started sobbing. I sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the steering wheel and cried so hard I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. I cried until my chest ached and my throat was raw and my face was soaked. Then I pulled myself together enough to drive. I made it 3 blocks before I had to pull into a Walgreens parking lot because I couldn't see through the tears. I sat there for 15 minutes, and I thought about my grandmother's words. The people who truly love you will always show up. Tomorrow, 40 people were going to show up at my parents' house, but they weren't showing up for me. They were showing up to watch me break. They were showing up because my sister had spent 6 months convincing them I was unstable, dangerous, out of control. They were showing up because my mother had invited them to witness my humiliation. They weren't showing up because they loved me. I drove home, and I made a decision. Tomorrow was the last day. The last day I'd pretend everything was fine. The last day I'd lie to protect people who'd never protected me. The last day I'd be part of a family that had never really wanted me. Tomorrow I was going to show up. Not for them, for myself. For Grandma Cora, who deserved to know her daughter had stolen from her. For Lily, the 9-year-old who taught me what love really looked like. For every lie I'd swallowed, every betrayal I'd ignored, every time I'd chosen their comfort over my own truth. Tomorrow I was going to stand in front of 40 people and play 7 recordings. And I was going to show them exactly what they'd done. Okay, before I walk through that door and face my entire family, I need you to do something, type justice in the comments if you're ready for what's coming. It means the world to me. One thing, the next part includes fictional touches for dramatic effect. If you're not comfortable with that, feel free to click away now. Otherwise, let's finish this. I pulled into my parents' driveway at 6:23 on Sunday evening, June 8th. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't feel the weight of obligation. I felt the weight of a loaded gun. The house looked normal from the outside beige siding, porch swing swaying gently in the breeze, pansies lining the walkway. A handful of cars I didn't recognize were parked along the curb, a white Lexus, a Honda Pilot, a silver Tahoe. My father's Ford F-150 sat in its usual spot, and my mother's Camry was tucked beside it. 40 people, Palmer had said. 40 witnesses. My phone buzzed in my lap. Palmer's text read, "Battery." I typed back, 100%. Power bank ready. I'm good. I checked the pocket of my navy blazer. The Anker 20,000 milliampere hours was plugged into my iPhone, and the charging cable was tucked discreetly beneath the fabric. I'd practiced this 17 times. I climbed out of the Corolla, closed the door quietly, and walked up the front steps. My hand was steady when I knocked, even though my heart was hammering hard enough to bruise. My mother opened the door. Her smile was bright and brittle, the kind she used in church when someone asked how she was doing. "Come in, sweetheart," she said. I stepped inside. The living room had been transformed. The couch and coffee table were gone, replaced by 5 rows of white folding chairs. Every seat was full. I recognized about half the faces my mother's friends from church: Lorraine Reeves, Estelle Parrish, Darlene Whitmore, plus a few neighbors and distant cousins. The rest were strangers. In the front row, Dr. Marcus Rhodes sat stiffly in a charcoal gray button-down. He looked out of place and uncomfortable, his eyes scanning the room like he was searching for an exit. Beside him sat a man I'd never met in person, but I knew his face from the photo my mother had sent 2 weeks ago, Preston Whitmore. 48 years old, twice divorced, net worth $4.2 million, wearing a navy blazer and a gold Rolex. His mother, Darlene, sat beside him, hands folded neatly in her lap. Preston smiled at me. I didn't smile back. In the third row, Harper sat with an iPad resting on her knees, angled toward the front of the room. Her face was blank, but her thumb moved across the screen, already recording. And in the back corner, standing beside a tripod with her iPhone mounted at eye level, was Sloane. She wore a cream linen dress and gold hoop earrings, her face carefully made up, her smile practiced and camera ready. The screen showed the Instagram live interface, 612 viewers. She waved at me just once, her expression sweet and sympathetic. I didn't wave back. My father stood at the front of the room holding a wireless microphone in one hand and 4 sheets of printed paper in the other. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, thinner, the lines around his mouth deeper than they'd been a year ago. My mother stepped beside him and took a microphone of her own. She cleared her throat and the room fell silent. "Thank you all for being here," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were trembling. "We know this is hard. But sometimes you have to be honest with the people you love, even when it hurts." She turned to me. Her eyes were wet, but her jaw was set. "Greer, honey, we're here because we love you, and because we can't keep living like this." My throat tightened. I felt every pair of eyes on me, 40 people watching, waiting, judging. "You've been manipulating this family for years," she said, her voice breaking. "You're selfish, you're controlling, and you've used money to trap us." I didn't move. I didn't speak. Warren stepped forward and lifted the microphone. He unfolded the first page and began to read. "When you were 24, he said, you demanded that we put your name on the mortgage. You said it was for financial planning, but really you wanted control." My stomach twisted. I'd never asked for that. They'd put my name on the mortgage because they couldn't afford the payments without my cosign. When you were 26, you refused to co-sign a $15,000 loan so your sister could open a wellness spa. You said it was too risky, but the truth is, you didn't want her to succeed. He turned to the second page. "When you were 27, you started sending money directly into your mother's bank account instead of giving us cash. You said it was easier, but it was really about control. You wanted to track every dollar. I could feel Sloane's camera on me. I didn't look at her. And this year," Warren said, his voice rising, "you've isolated us from our friends and family. You've told people we're dependent on you. You've made us feel small." He folded the papers and looked at me. His eyes were hard. "You need help, Greer, professional help." Dr. Rhodes shifted in his seat. He glanced around frowning, and I saw the exact moment he realized something was wrong. There was no therapist here, no licensed psychologist, no intervention specialist. Just my family and a crowd. Preston leaned toward his mother and whispered something. She patted his hand and whispered back. He looked confused. Sloane zoomed in with her phone. I could see the screen from across the room, my face pale and expressionless, framed by the camera. The comment section scrolled rapidly, heart-shocked emojis, 3 people typing, "This is intense" in all caps. 47 people were screen recording, and I still hadn't said a word. My mother stepped forward again, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We just want you to admit it, honey," she said. "We want you to take responsibility, and then we can heal." I met her eyes. I didn't blink. "Are you done?" I asked. The room went silent. "Because I have something to say too." I didn't sit back down. I reached into my blazer pocket and pulled out the JBL Flip 5. It was smaller than a water bottle, matte black and fully charged. I set it on the folding chair beside me and pressed the Bluetooth pairing button on my phone. The room was so quiet I could hear the faint hiss of the speaker connecting. My mother's voice wavered. "Greer, honey, what are you—" "I have recordings," I said. Her face went pale. "Recordings of what?" my father asked. His voice was sharp, defensive, the way it always got when he knew he was caught. I didn't answer. I just tapped my phone screen and pressed play. Recording 1, Warren Bellamy, March 14th, 2024. The speaker crackled and then my father's voice filled the room. "Levi needs $600 for books this semester. I'm pulling it from the money Greer sends." A woman's voice responded, throaty, tired, a little annoyed. "Warren were already 16 years behind on child support, $48,000. If the state finds out, Vivienne doesn't know. She's never gonna know. Just keep your mouth shut until the kid turns 18 and we're clear." The recording ended. 40 people sat frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. My father's face turned the color of a bruise, deep red mottled his jaw, clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. I turned to face him. "You stood up here," I said, my voice steady, "and you told everyone I manipulate this family with money. You said I control you." I took a step closer. "But you've been stealing $600 a month from me for 16 years. You've been using the money I sent to help you to keep your house from foreclosure, to pay for a child you had with another woman, a child you've been hiding from all of us." Warren opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "So tell me, Dad," I said, "who's really manipulating, who—" Someone in the third row whispered, "Oh my God." Sloane's phone was still up, still recording. I could see the viewer count climbing 823 now. The comment section was exploding. "Who is Levi? This is insane. She's got receipts, 48,000. I didn't look at her. I looked at my mother. "Mom," I said, "you want to go next?" Her lips trembled. "Greer, don't—" I pressed play again. Recording 2. Vivienne Bellamy and Verity Coulter, April 9th, 2024. My mother's voice came through the speaker, bright and conspiratorial. "I pulled $63,000 from Cora's trust, changed the mailing address to our house, forged Greer's power of attorney signature. She'll never know." Aunt Verity's voice responded, cautious. "Viv, that's illegal. If anyone finds out—" "No one's going to find out, and I already sold the sapphire necklace. Got $11.50 for it at that pawn shop on Patton." The recording stopped. Aunt Verity, my father's sister, 54 years old church organist, wearing a floral dress and a silver cross necklace, stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. Her face was white. She didn't say a word. She just turned and walked straight out the front door. The sound of it slamming echoed through the house. My mother's hands were shaking. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. That was taken out of context. "No," I said, "it wasn't." I turned to face the room. 40 people, 40 witnesses. Lorraine Reeves sat in the second row, her arms crossed her face, tight with shock. Estelle Parrish had her hand over her mouth. Darlene Whitmore leaned toward her son and whispered something urgent. Preston looked from her to me, his expression somewhere between confusion and horror. And Dr. Marcus Rhodes, 43 years old, emergency medicine, attending a man I'd worked beside for 3 years, sat perfectly still in the front row. His jaw clenched, his eyes locked on Sloane. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at her, because he'd started to put it together. I turned back to my mother. "You stood up here tonight." I said, "And you told everyone I'm controlling. You said I use money to trap you." My voice didn't shake, my hands didn't tremble. "But But you forged my signature. You stole $63,000 from my grandmother's trust fund. You sold her sapphire necklace, an heirloom she wanted to give me for my 30th birthday, and you pawned it for $1,150. Vivienne's face crumpled. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but I didn't stop. I didn't manipulate anyone, I said. I paid. For 5 years, I paid your mortgage. I paid your insurance. I paid for Sloane's car. I paid for groceries. I worked 12-hour shifts in the PICU, and I sent you $2,750 a month because I thought you needed me. I took a breath. But you didn't need me. You needed my money, and when I couldn't give you more, you just took it. The room was dead silent. Even the Instagram live comments had slowed. The viewer count was at 941 now. 94 people were screen recording. Sloane still hadn't turned the camera off. Her hands were shaking. Her face had gone pale, but she hadn't moved. She just stood there, phone in hand, live stream, running, watching everything fall apart. Dr. Rhodes stood. He didn't say anything. He just looked at Sloane, one long, steady look, and then he turned and walked toward the door. Preston Whitmore stood too. He glanced at his mother, then at me, then at the tripod in the corner. "I think I've seen enough," he said quietly. Darlene grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the exit. They were gone in 10 seconds. I looked at my parents. Warren sat slumped in his chair, his face slack, his hands limp in his lap. Vivienne was crying, her shoulders shaking, but she didn't try to defend herself. She just sat there, tears streaming silent. I picked up my phone. I paused the playlist. "I'm not finished," I said, and I pressed play again. I stepped between Sloane and the speaker. She was already moving, hand reaching toward the tripod, toward her phone, toward the live stream button, but I got there first. I planted myself in front of the JBL Flip 5 and pressed play. Recording 3, Sloane Bellamy, Vivienne Bellamy, Warren Bellamy, May 2nd, 2024. Sloane's voice came through the speaker, first younger, breaking. "I can't do this anymore. He hit me again last night. I want a divorce." My mother's voice cut in sharp and cold. "A divorce means losing $3,200 a month, Sloane. This family can't afford that." My father's voice followed, flat and final. "Jasper said he'll change. You need to be patient. For the family." Sloane's voice cracked. "I don't care about the money. I just want him to stop." Vivienne, again harder this time. "Then you're selfish. We all make sacrifices." The recording ended. 40 people sat frozen. In the fourth row, Jasper Grant, 32 years old software engineer, Sloane's husband, wearing a navy polo and a wedding ring, stood abruptly. His face was the color of ash. He turned toward the door. Shelby Monroe, 29, PICU, nurse my coworker, standing near the exit in scrubs and Nikes, stepped directly into his path. "Sit down," she said. Jasper hesitated, glanced back at Sloane, then sat. I turned to face the room. "You all heard that," I said. "My sister told my parents she was being abused, and they told her to stay because of money." No one spoke. I looked at my mother. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I pressed play again. Recording 4, Vivienne Bellamy and Darlene Whitmore, July 11th, 2024. My mother's voice bright and scheming. "Preston's 48, divorced, twice worth $4.2 million. My daughter's 28, a nurse very sweet. I think they'd be perfect together." Darlene Whitmore's voice responded, cautious but intrigued. "I'll ask Preston to come to the birthday dinner on August 6th. Perfect. After the intervention, Greer will be vulnerable. She'll see Preston as a rescue. It'll be easy." The recording stopped. Preston Whitmore stood. He looked at his mother, Darlene, 70 years old, silver bob floral dress, sitting beside him, with her hands folded, and his face went from confusion to horror. "You told me this was a birthday dinner," he said quietly. "You said it was a chance to meet someone. You didn't say it was—" He stopped. He turned to me. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Darlene grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the door. He followed, but he looked back once, his face tight with shame. The door closed behind them. I pressed play again. Recording 5, Sloane Bellamy and Tegan Cross, March 22nd, 2024. Sloane's voice casual, almost proud. "I opened 3 cards in her name. Discover Capital One Chase. Kept the charges under $200 each time so she wouldn't notice. 18 months, $28,400 total. Tegan's voice laughing. And the intervention on Sunday, I'm going to pin it all on her, say she's got a shopping addiction. No one's going to believe her after that. The recording ended. The room exploded. Not in noise, in movement. People shifted in their seats, pulled out their phones, started recording. The Instagram Live viewer count jumped from 612 to 973. The screen recording count hit 94. Sloane's hands were shaking so hard she dropped her phone. It clattered onto the tile floor screen, still lit live stream, still running. Shelby stepped forward and picked it up. She held it out of Sloane's reach. "No," Shelby said. Sloane tried to grab it. Shelby pulled it back, calm and steady. "You're not turning this off," Shelby said. "Everyone needs to see." I pressed play again. Recording 6, Sloane Bellamy. Phone call, June 14th, 2024. Sloane's voice smug and efficient. I sent 3 anonymous emails to the hospital. Said Greer's mentally unstable mood swings unprofessional. I also called Lorraine Estelle Everett Curtis and Glenn. Told them she's an alcoholic, threatens our parents, controls the family money. By Sunday, 40 people are going to think she's insane. The recording stopped. Dr. Marcus Rhodes stood. His face was hard, his jaw clenched, his voice cold. "I received 3 anonymous complaints about you in the past 4 months, he said, looking straight at Sloane. "I questioned your fitness to work. I almost referred you to the medical board." He took a step toward her. "You faked a mental health crisis. You lied to me. You manipulated me into coming here to humiliate your own sister." He turned to me. "I'm sorry, Greer," he said. "I should have known better." Then he walked out. Lorraine Reeves and Estelle Parrish stood. Both women were in their 60s, both members of my mother's church circle, both wearing Sunday dresses and pearls. "Sloane called me 2 months ago," Lorraine said, her voice shaking. "She said Greer was drinking at work. She said she was worried." Estelle nodded. "She told me the same thing. She said Greer was threatening your parents." Lorraine looked at Sloane, her face hard. "You lied to all of us." They walked out together. I pressed play one last time. Recording 7, Sloane Bellamy and Camden Foster, July 23, 2024. Sloane's voice low and intimate. "After Sunday, my sister and I will be done. Then you and I can go public." Camden Foster's voice, 29 years old physical therapist, my ex-boyfriend from 3 years ago, responded. "What about the inheritance? I convinced my mom to add a clause to the will. If Greer's ever diagnosed with a mental illness, her share goes to me. And Grandma Cora's 79. One fall and I'm the only heir left." The recording ended. The room was silent. Not the kind of silence that comes before something, the kind that comes after. 40 people sat perfectly still. No one moved. No one spoke. Sloane was sobbing now, her shoulders shaking, her face buried in her hands. Vivian sat beside her, stone-faced, staring at nothing. Warren had his head in his hands, his elbows on his knees. I looked at Sloane. "You called me selfish for 26 years, I said. "But you committed federal identity theft. You ran a 6-month defamation campaign against me. You had an affair with my ex-boyfriend, and you planned to harm an elderly woman for inheritance money." My voice didn't shake. "This isn't a sibling rivalry anymore, Sloane. This is crime." Harper stood in the 3rd row and held up her iPad. "Palmer," she said into her phone. "I got all of it." I pulled out my own phone and held it up. "Cloud backups live," I said. "Every recording, every statement, encrypted and time-stamped." Harper nodded. 47 people screen recorded the Instagram Live. It's everywhere. I looked at the tripod in the corner. Sloane's phone was still mounted, screen still glowing. Instagram Live 1,038 viewers. 104 screen recordings saved. It was over, and everyone knew. I turned to face the room. Not my parents. Not Sloane. The 40 people sitting in folding chairs, holding their phones, watching the wreckage unfold in real time. "My father read a 4-page letter tonight," I said. "He accused me of 3 things. I want to address each one." My voice was steady. My hands weren't shaking anymore. "First, financial manipulation. He said I use money to control this family." I held up my phone. Recording 1 proved that my father has been stealing $600 a month from me for 16 years. He used that money to support a child he had with another woman, a child he's been hiding from all of us. He owes $48,000 in back child support, and he called me manipulative. I paused. Second isolation. He said I cut this family off from friends and community. I tapped my phone screen. Recording 6 proved that my sister ran a 6-month defamation campaign against me. She sent 3 anonymous emails to my hospital. She called 5 people in this room, Lorraine, Estelle, Everett, Curtis, Glenn, and told them I was an alcoholic, that I threatened my parents, that I was mentally unstable. She isolated me. Not the other way around. I looked at Lorraine and Estelle. Both women nodded their faces tight. Third refusal to help. He said I abandoned this family when they needed me most. I held up my phone again. Recording 2 proved that my mother embezzled $63,000 from my grandmother's trust fund. She forged my power of attorney signature. She sold my grandmother's sapphire necklace for $1,150 and pocketed the cash. I lowered my phone. So no, I'm not selfish, I'm not controlling, and I'm not refusing to help. I've been helping for 5 years. I sent you $2,750 a month. I worked 12-hour shifts. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment and drove a car with 147,000 miles on it because I thought you needed me. My voice didn't waver. But you didn't need me. You needed my money. And when I couldn't give you more, you just stole it. I reached into my blazer pocket and pulled out 2 envelopes. Both were sealed. Both had names written on the front in black ink. I walked to the front of the room and set the first envelope on the folding chair where my father had been sitting. "This is for you and Mom," I said. Warren looked up. His face was gray. "It's a financial cutoff notice," I said. "Effective immediately, I will no longer be paying your mortgage, your insurance, your groceries, or Sloane's car payment. That's $2,750 a month. You're on your own." Vivienne made a small, choked sound. I didn't look at her. I turned to Sloane and held up the second envelope. "This one's for you." Her face was streaked with tears, her hands still shaking. She didn't reach for it. I set it on the chair beside her. "It's a copy of the federal identity theft report I filed with the FBI yesterday," I said. "You opened 3 credit cards in my name. You racked up $28,400 in debt. That's a federal crime. The agents will be in touch with you on Monday." Sloane's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stepped back. "And one more thing." I pointed to the tripod in the corner. Her phone was still mounted, screen still glowing. "Your live stream's still running," I said. 1,247 people are watching right now. 138 of them have screen recorded the whole thing. You can try to delete it if you want, but it's already out there, forever. Sloane's face crumpled. She let out a wail, high and desperate, and lunged toward the tripod. Shelby stepped in front of her. "Don't," Shelby said quietly. Sloane shoved her. Shelby didn't move. "It's over, Sloane," Shelby said. "Let it go." Sloane collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, her hands covering her face. I turned back to the 40 people in the room. Some of them were already standing, gathering their coats, their purses, their phones. Some of them wouldn't meet my eyes. A few Lorraine Estelle, a woman I didn't recognize in the back row, nodded at me as I walked past. No one said anything. I reached the front door and pulled it open. The August night air hit me warm, humid, thick with the smell of cut grass and distant rain. I stepped onto the porch and took a breath. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice, small and broken. "Greer, please." I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. Palmer Thorne was waiting 2 houses down, leaning against his Subaru Outback, arms crossed, phone in hand. He straightened when he saw me. "You good?" he asked. I nodded. He opened the passenger door. I climbed in. He closed it, gently walked around to the driver's side, and slid behind the wheel. He didn't start the engine right away. He just sat there, hands on the wheel, looking at me. "FBI called me back 10 minutes ago," he said. "They're opening an investigation, identity theft, wire fraud, embezzlement. They'll contact Sloane, your mom, and your dad within 48 hours. I nodded again. "Harper sent me the iPad backup," he continued. "I uploaded it to the secure drive. Time-stamped, encrypted, cloud-stored. No one can touch it." "Good," I said. Palmer hesitated. "How do you feel?" I looked out the window. My parents' house was 200 feet behind us, porch light still on, front door still open. Through the window, I could see shadows, moving people, leaving chairs, folding the room, emptying. "I feel free," I said. Palmer started the engine. We pulled away from the curb headlights, cutting through the dark, and I didn't look back. Inside the house, Sloane was still on the floor, still sobbing. Vivian sat motionless in her chair, staring at the wall. Warren had his head in his hands. The Instagram Live was still running. 1,312 viewers. 152 screen recordings saved. Jasper stood and walked out without a word. Shelby picked up the tripod, held Sloane's phone up to the camera, and said clearly, "If anyone screen recorded this and wants to submit it as evidence, contact the Asheville Police Department. This is domestic abuse, financial fraud, and elder exploitation. Don't let this get buried." Then she ended the live stream. The screen went black. Outside, Palmer's car turned onto the main road. I rolled down the window and let the night air wash over me. My phone buzzed. A text from Grandma Cora. "Haven't heard from you in a few days, sweetheart. Everything okay?" I smiled. "Everything's fine, Grandma. I'll come see you tomorrow. I have something to tell you." I put my phone away. Palmer glanced at me. "You sure you're okay?" "Yeah," I said, "I'm sure." For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't sending money. I wasn't making excuses. I wasn't lying to protect people who didn't protect me. I was just driving away, and I wasn't coming back. And to you listening to this story, remember this: God gave us families to love us, not to use us. He taught us to honor our parents, but honor doesn't mean letting them destroy you. I learned that the hard way. For 5 years, I believed sacrifice meant giving until I had nothing left. I thought being a good daughter meant saying yes to every demand, every lie, every theft. I thought love required me to stay silent while my family buried me alive. I was wrong. God also taught us to speak the truth, to protect the innocent, to stand against injustice even when it wears the face of the people who raised you. Family betrayal cuts deeper than any other wound because you never see it coming. You keep believing they'll change, that this time will be different, that your love will finally be enough. But real love doesn't steal from you. Real love doesn't frame you for crimes. Real love doesn't sell you to the highest bidder. Don't be like me. Don't wait 5 years to realize you're not helping. You're enabling. Don't sacrifice yourself for people who'd never do the same for you. And don't confuse loyalty with self-destruction. Sometimes family revenge isn't about hurting them back. It's about refusing to let them hurt you anymore. It's about walking away with your truth and your dignity intact. That's the only revenge worth having. I still pray for my family, but I pray from a distance now, because God calls us to love, but He never asked us to be martyrs for people who mistake kindness for weakness. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories that remind you you deserve better than betrayal. Thank you for staying until the end. And a gentle warning: upcoming stories contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If that's not for you, feel free to explore other content that fits better. Take care of yourself. You matter more than you know.